Good evening, everyone. Very nice to be able to share something with you this evening. I thought it was going to be something that we can all benefit from. And just at the beginning, I wanted to introduce myself, Monique Rebelle, the author of Transcendence Calling, the Power of Kundalini Rising and Spiritual Enlightenment. This evening I would like to talk about something that I did write about in my book. It's the system of multidimensional consciousness. I know that we hear here and there about multidimensional this or that, and also about consciousness, but I have never heard anyone putting it in a very clear way and making it understandable what it really is, that multidimensional consciousness. If you have read my book, then you have an idea about it. If you haven't, I'm going to describe in briefly how I came to this whole system, how I was able to discover it, and it took me some years to contemplate it and to figure out actually how to teach it, to make it clear. And I'm intending to publish a new book which is going to go more in depth about that very thing, the system of our multidimensional consciousness. So, to start, let me just briefly describe how I came upon the whole thing. I had a spontaneous Kundalini rising experience before I knew the word Kundalini, and at that time I didn't even believe in chakras, and I didn't know anything about Kundalini rising. I didn't know the concept of spiritual enlightenment was very vague to me. But during my experience, I was able to see, experience how my consciousness was actually moving through different worlds. I call those words dimensions of perception. It took me probably, since it was before internet, it was 1992, a long time ago. Because it was before internet, it took me a while to actually figure out what happened. And I searched in books, and I finally found what actually happened to me, what it is called Kundalini rising, and I realized that in my case it went all the way through, and my consciousness exited through the top of my head, through the crown chakra. And I was able to, just from reading a couple of books, I was able to compare how the dimensions of perception that I was moving through during my experience relate to chakras. And my teachings align in many ways with how, in general, the subtle body is described, except I saw some differences that are actually major differences in description of the function of particular chakras and in the function of Kundalini itself. So accordingly to my findings, Kundalini, and you might find it in some information, external information anywhere. You may find that that's what it's called, but people have different views on the meaning of the word Kundalini. In my view, it's just our consciousness. So Kundalini is consciousness, nothing but consciousness. Everything that you are, everything that you think, everything that had happened to you, that you know about it, and even things that you don't know that were happening to you when you were very little, and even things from the past lives that you may recall in some way or maybe not at all. All that is consciousness. So if we think about consciousness, it's all that we know, and also things that we don't know, but it belongs to that incredible, magical essence that each of us possesses. And that essence, or which each of us is that essence is resting in between the first and the second chakra. When you find information about chakras, and I'm sure that many of you know about chakras and subtle body system. If you don't, I'll explain briefly anyway, because that's the subject of this event. So the subtle body is the structure of our consciousness. And the reason I keep on talking about it is because there is an essential misunderstanding about what consciousness is in comparison to what our mind is. We are experiencing, or we are figuring out life with mind, which is the third chakra. And that's not enough. And this is why we need to know about multidimensional consciousness that we have access to. Mind is not all there is. Mind is just a little part of our consciousness. So let's start with just a quick description of what this whole thing is. This image comes from the sixth chakra of intuition and vision. And that's how some people are able to perceive the subtle body and can see the colors, can see actually the movement of a rotation of chakras, but not everyone can see it. And why? It's because some of us have the upper chakras open, developed, and some of us don't. If we think about Kundalini resting at the bottom of the spine, we see it is here in between the first chakra, the root chakra, and the second chakra, which is the emotional chakra. And here is the difference. I realized during my experience and afterwards that the second chakra is not sexual and creative together with being emotional. It's just emotional. But our consciousness itself, our spiritual essence, Kundalini, is sexual and creative. And also survival. So it has those three characteristics as soon as it creates and enters the body. As soon as it lodges itself in between the first and second chakra, which is in the sacrum area in the first dimension. Okay, so here I'm going into dimensions already. Chakras are the gates that open us up to different dimensions of perception. These dimensions are always there, always. If we die, our body dies, the physical dimension is still going to be there. Our Kundalini is eternal, so it's going to be also probably lodging itself in a new body, creating a new subtle body system. So each chakra opens us up to different dimensions. And let's quickly go over those dimensions so we have an idea of what they are and how they relate to our personal lives. As I said, the first one is the material dimension, and that's everything that's material, including gases and substances that we can't see, but they belong to the material world. It's the cosmos that seems infinite and could be, it could be not, it doesn't matter. It's just the material dimension. That dimension can be explored by scientists on and on and on, and there'll be always new stuff coming up. There'll be always new information. It's also everything that we see under microscope. So tiniest particles, atoms, belong to the material world. And our bodies, our intricate physical bodies, belong to the material world. The second dimension is just emotional. We can already tell right here that there is a big difference between the material world and the emotional world. The emotional world, our emotional chakra, our second chakra, reacts instantly to our physical environment. It reacts to how our bodies feel. It tells us yes or no. It tells like or not like. It's monitoring us constantly. There is a range, emotional range that we know, from very, very unhappy to extremely happy, and in between there are all these different emotional states like apathy or grief or fear, anger, antagonism, or conservatism, or contentment, and then onto cheerfulness, enthusiasm, extreme happiness, and serenity of being. This is what the emotional scale is like. And that's all. We can reach that through this chakra, through the second chakra. So as you can tell, this is a very personal world. And now the third chakra. This is the most important issue for humans, because we are experiencing the world through this chakra. We are figuring the world out, not physically, not emotionally, but mentally, through this chakra. So, because of that, we create a viewpoint and many viewpoints on what we experience and what we see. And we learn viewpoints of others. And as we grow up from the time when we just start thinking, and there is also there are also elements of past lives in that chakra too. So as we grow up, we become of certain viewpoint. We create our personality. This chakra creates our personality. There are mental structures and systems that are in that chakra that make us who we are, and who we think we are, and and then there is the mind that it's also will. So it's thoughts and will. That's this chakra. It opens us up to the dimension of thoughts, and we are kind of navigating in that world with our will. Our will is telling us what our choices could be and what we want. That desire of what we want is based also on the emotional chakra. So these three, and on physical as well. So these three have emotions and thoughts, and physical being our personal, individual, physical existence, our own body. All these three, they're very close together. And you see, Kundalini itself is sitting right here. So it is receiving that information. It is Kundalini here is asleep, right? It's not awakened yet. When it awakens, it moves up. And if it can, it will move through those chakras. And when it moves through them, it will clear them up, because it's pure consciousness. So let's go to this, just the third one. It's impossible for the mind to see outside of itself, and it's using linear and logical ways of figuring things out. And chakras are hierarchical, so we can't see up, we can only see down. So the mind sees into emotional and physical, and that mind can be, very well developed and have tremendous knowledge about everything, science and geography and history and society and whatnot. All kinds of sciences are here in this dimension of thoughts. It's huge. It's huge, and so is the material world. It's huge, right? And if we have just these three together, that's already enough for us. There is enough of trouble in here. There is enough of things to figure out. And that's why I wanted to describe how we need to pay attention to the upper dimensions, understand them, cultivate them, and at the same time work or train the lower ones. It's not hard to understand, but what's most important is to be able to allow the mind to calm down and not judge everything and not be doubting of everything and not be going in circles. And so we need to train the mind and we need to train our emotions so we are not emotionally constantly under some kind of emotional charge. These chakras, especially the second and third, are full, congested, because we don't recognize the upper ones, and the upper ones are not developed enough. And if we go and look, if our Kundalini moves through, if it awakens and keeps on going up, it breaks through the emotional chakra and we don't have emotional charge. And then it comes to the third one, and if it clears this chakra, it clears all of our thoughts from the time we started thinking. It is possible. When it happened to me, I had no idea that something like that is possible. But spiritual teachers talk about it. Talk about stopping the mind, talking about releasing the thoughts. And it is actually a part of the process of Kundalini rising, Kundalini moving towards the seventh chakra, where it can exit through it if the chakra opens up and we can unite with everything. But before that happens, we need to explore these upper chakras. Love, the fifth chakra. Love is simple, but the point is that from here we can't see it. We can't see up. We just have concepts about it. We need to have this chakra developed and open so we can feel that love is a dimension that's always there. Always. And everyone is love. It's a process. As when Kundalini moves up, there are points of transcendence at each chakra, and during our consciousness moving through those points of transcendence, the energy of each chakra transcends into the higher vibration. So when our consciousness is here, we receive grace. That is, we find ourselves being loved forever. We find home in that sacred world. It's called maybe God's love, and many religions are talking about it, and Jesus Christ was teaching about it all the time, about that love that's always there. So we have the tool, we have the chakra that we can develop, cultivate, and have that love all the time with us. This chakra, the fifth one, opens us up to the dimension of energy exchange. Here is where we meet others, where through the sound or through other means, even telepathic means, psychic powers, we can get information about anything. So that chakra, as you know, some of us have it more developed than others, but we're not there communicating telepathically on daily basis. But there is a possibility, because in here, in this incredible dimension that's very magical, here we have Akashic records, and we can reach any information from past, present, or future. And it is so because it's only The time is here in the third chakra. It's a sub-dimension of the third dimension, the time. So we can understand it. We can understand the history, we can understand our life stories, and we can understand so many things because we have that process available, time. But the upper chakras have no time. Love is eternal. And so is the information that we can reach through the opening of the fifth chakra. It's eternal. So we can reach future and past and present equally. We can communicate with other beings. And everything that has to do in our let's call it normal, regular lives, has to do with music, performance, rhythm, and dance. Those are the qualities of the fifth chakra. So in some ways they are okay. You can say that dancing is just moving and to the rhythm, and music is just music, but we know that there is much more to it. There is a whole incredible energy that's in that creative dimension that artists, musicians, performers are connected with. They have that chakra open. The sixth one is an incredible dimension that we know a lot about it, but it hasn't been yet completely discussed as a whole big dimension. It has so many layers. It starts with vision and intuitive understanding of vision. So it's visual. This is where visual artists draw their inspiration from the sixth chakra. But there is more to it. Understanding of sacred symbols, understanding of sacred geometry, understanding, tapping into the sciences, psychic sciences as I call them, like astrology, numerology, any kind of symbolism, poetic symbolism. It's all in here. And then there is more to it. Religions, archetypes, tarot cards, that any kind of divination. It's all the sixth chakra. It's all the sixth chakra as the gate to the sixth dimension. In that dimension we have all the gods, and there are archetypes basically, but they are archetypes that have preserved so well for as long as the religions are conceived, and religions happen here. They start here because once our Kundalini comes here to the sixth chakra, we can meet with God and we can have a conversation with God or another God, it depending what our personal structure is, and depending what we tap into. We can tap into some God subconsciously. We can do it because of the self-inquiry that we can be using, and that's another subject. Of course, I'm just trying to describe the basics of this incredible, huge, huge subject in 45 minutes. It's not possible, but I hope that you're getting an idea, and some of you have already listened to other broadcasts like this from me, so you already have an idea, and some of you, of course, have your own knowledge. I'm just here to show it to you from a certain viewpoint, which I consider extremely important, because no one else is actually teaching about chakras as the gates to the dimensions of perception. No one is teaching about the dimensions always being there. And if we actually comprehend that system with that viewpoint of Kundalini being the individual unit of consciousness and chakras being the gates to the dimensions of perception, we can isolate each chakra that opens us up to each dimension, and we can develop each chakra separately, and most important, we can train the lower chakras, which are the reasons for human problems. In the sixth dimension, to finish this little short description of the subtle body, at the top of the sixth dimension, there is an abstract dimension and conceptual dimension. This is where, before things manifest on the material level, they appear in the sixth dimension in the form of concepts. And that is continually creating all the time, non-stop, in eternal fashion. Some of these concepts materialize, some of it exists still in that abstract form, but it's a live entity, if you will. It's that dimension has in itself the creation of the world, including creation of our lives. Every individual life is created in that dimension. Our past, present, and future is created in the sixth dimension. So you see, it's not easy to just explain it in a few words, in a few sentences. I do teach how to get to that point of understanding that this reality of the first three dimensions is an illusion. And also, I do explain the best I can, and I suggest practices as well for each chakra, how to reach the stage of self-realization, which happens at the top of the sixth dimension, when our consciousness is going through the sixth chakra, exploring it at some point. If everything goes well, and if the self-inquiry is present, self-inquiry, which is asking questions and receiving answers, if the self-inquiry is present, through the self-inquiry, our soul will be able to free itself from all the earthly confinements, from everything that is holding us down. And our soul, our little Kundalini here, it wants to go up. It wants to self-realize. It feels that that's what life is all about, besides everything else that comes from here and from the other dimensions. We want to self-realize. as eternal beings. Soul is eternal, and self realizes here at the top of the sixth dimension. But that's not all. After it realizes, it still is perfectly able to use self-inquiry to find out more. And once it asks correct questions, it receives the answers that will open up the seventh chakra. So, I understand that for some of you it's something that's very maybe far away. For some of you it's something that really rings a bell, that you get an idea what I'm talking about. What the point of this whole presentation is that we are, as humans, completely overwhelmed on daily basis by the first three chakras. That means we perceive mostly the material, emotional, and mental dimension. And the dominance of that, which it is, the dominance of these first three chakras is the ego. And it's not to say that ego is bad. It can be very bad, but it's a problem because there is no balance. The balance comes when we have also the upper chakras working, the magical, the love, the magical communication with other beings, exchange of energy, the beauty of performance, and not only just performance in the sense of just people playing in a rock band, but spiritual rituals and things that bring our consciousness, take our consciousness up and allow us to exist on those levels, exist in the dimension of love. Be there. Be never alone, always in communication with good energy. If this chakra is open, we can have good energy all the time. If this chakra is closed, can be trouble of mean spirits visiting us. The sixth dimension, we need to understand that one too, because if we don't, and if our consciousness goes up till here, we can be caught by some god that will make us their slave in the sense of religious fanaticism and belief in God having power over us and us being nothing. We are not nothing. It doesn't mean that God has no place. God, absolutely, gods are in the sixth dimension. There's plenty of them, and we can communicate with them. But as a whole being, we can unite with God. We can our consciousness can exit through the top of the head, the crown chakra, if that chakra allows us to do it. And so the self-inquiry and certain kinds of meditation allow for development of this chakra. This is another mind, a very important mind that we don't learn about in school. In fact, we don't learn in school about any of them. So this chakra is the mind that does not identify like the third chakra does. It discerns. It doesn't judge. It witnesses. It doesn't speculate in order to gain, but it but it observes. Through the nature of the seventh chakra, we can tap into the deepest spiritual truths, something that's beyond our tiring reality that we live in. It's tiring if we don't have the upper chakras open. It's tiring if we have these chakras congested. The first one is congested when we get sick. The first one gets congested. So we do have answers for each of those problems. And I teach that. I teach how to deal with emotions, how not to be overwhelmed by emotions. There are specific practices for that. I teach how to bring the mind to the place where it's supposed to be, not telling us what to do, not telling Kundalini what to do, but our consciousness using the mind for our purposes, not letting the mind decide for us. And this mind is so, it needs to focus, right? It needs to focus, and the magic is in focusing, narrowing the focus to the point of having one thought only. And when that one thought is there, and we can focus on that one thought, then we can surrender that one thought. And that allows the Kundalini to reach the third chakra and clear it out. So Kundalini rising is there for us to clean, to reach all the way to the top, but at the same time clear those congested chakras and sometimes break open the upper ones. People who have experienced Kundalini rising can tell that after the experience they became more psychic. That was my case, and I've heard that from several of my students, and I've heard that from others who are saying that after the experience they became psychic. They felt love. Their intuition was so much stronger, and so on. I mean, there are so many benefits that you know. The benefits are incredible, but in the sense of understanding it through the third chakra, through our mind, those are benefits to our ego, because we do better this or better that, and we feel better about ourselves. But the ego is not consciousness. It's just a small part of it. And the problem that we have, that we're egoholics, because we're just constantly drawn to that personal need, personal desire, personal preferences, and it's all good, but we need to be able to see more clearly and to use this mind as a perfect computer that can resolve any problem. Actually, it can't resolve any problem if it's congested with all these mental systems and structures that we've learned for so long. We've been learning them, and now we think we can't do without them. The ego thinks that it can't do without itself. And I remember, before I had my experience, I thought about the tales about losing the ego, and I thought, well, I don't want to lose my desire, my passions, my drive. That wouldn't be okay. I don't want to lose it, but I just didn't know what it was. I only learned when my mind was cleared from all the thoughts that I had, which was quite amazing. And I've heard others having experiences of Kundalini reaching the third chakra, and that's when you feel this sense of omniscience, omniscience, sense of a great joy and understanding and clarity. So there is so much to it, and I hope I was able to explain a little bit in this short presentation. Okay, thank you guys so much. I hope you enjoyed this. I wanted to invite you to my teachings because I have programs that will help you to find in yourself the state of each of your chakra, and will use the practices to develop the upper ones, cultivate them. It depends on your predisposition. Some of us have the upper chakras open here and there, but a lot of times people come to me with the seventh chakra open because of meditation, and they've done so much meditation for so many years, and the light is shooting out of their head, and it's incredible, but they don't know what to do with it. And that's because they don't practice on the lower chakras, and they don't cultivate the other ones. So we need to balance it all. I have a new program that I just created because the normal system I'm using is teaching it within, like, there are 8 modules. The first 7 modules is on each dimension. We learn about each dimension and how to practice for each dimension, because each dimension is different, operates on different principle. And then the 8th module is putting together a practice that's just for you, just designed accordingly to your needs and your predispositions and your lifestyle and everything that has to do with how your being can benefit the most from this program. For each session is at least an hour, hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours. And I created a program that's just an introduction into the our multidimensional consciousness. You'll have to go to MoniqueRebelle.com and take a look at services, take a look at sessions and courses, and take a look at the new course that I created called Our Multidimensional Consciousness Intro. Here I talked for 45 minutes and touched upon different areas of this whole incredibly enormous subject, but we will go over the basics of our multidimensional consciousness in 2 to 3 hours, and it could be an individual or a group class. And during those 3 hours, we can talk about your personal needs and how to deal with specific problems that usually are in the area of 2nd and 3rd chakra, but also developing the upper ones is very, very important. So we talk about that too. Okay, I went a little bit over time, but it's always difficult to condense that much of information in less than an hour. I hope that you could benefit from this. I hope that it cleared up maybe some of the unknown that you wanted to learn about. I hope that it was good for you. And I'm hoping that I'll see you soon. And yeah, let's get together and sign up for an orientation session, just so we can talk about whatever it is that we can do together. Maybe we can work together, maybe not. But most of the time, people who come to me are coming with issues that are definitely workable, especially when it's about partial Kundalini rising. That's very problematic often. And clearing up the second and third chakra is very important. And then reasons why people who practice spirituality and have done a lot of meditation are often feeling lost and unable to move on is because there are things to be cleared up in the whole system. In each of the dimensions, there is something to do. Each chakra needs different approach. So that's it for now. I'm very grateful that you watched me. I wish I could see you too. And thank you so much. Hope to see you next time, and hope you'll contact me soon. Bye for now. Have a wonderful night. Bye.